Welcome back, guys. Hope you're all doing just wonderful. My name is Keith. This is what really matters. Today's video will be a little different. Different in a way, but also not different because it all fits in under the same umbrella. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about telepathy and thought transmission. These words may not mean nothing to you. They didn't mean anything to me for a long time. I've heard them in passing before I got into knowing myself. And obviously, I've seen movies that have centered or have involved telepathy. But never have I ever thought about them as in putting them into practice in my everyday life and thinking that maybe I do myself have telepathy. And thought transmission is something that just came into my awareness recently. And thought transmission obviously correlates with telepathy, right? Thought transmission, I don't know the exact term and the exact definition of it, but what it means basically is what I understand it as is that if you think something and you want to have someone else think it or think about you, we are all one consciousness, right? The body is separate. The body is an illusion to an extent. The 3D realm is an illusion, but we're all existing under the one consciousness, i.e., God, source, etc., whatever you want to call it. And if that is true, which it is, if that is truth, that there's just one consciousness, and then there's an appearance of different beings, different human beings. We all have our own personalities, right? Personal realities. But if we're the same consciousness, and everything inside our mind that's mental is from consciousness too, it all exists. So if I think about someone who lives in Florida, I have a friend that lived in Florida. He used to live down here where I live in Louisiana, but he moved. So if I think about him in my mind with love, I see him in my mind's eye, and I just send waves of loving energy towards him. He will feel that. He might think of me also. And so that is basically what thought transmission is. And you can use it to, in your mind's eye, you can use it to tell them something. You can literally communicate with them, since we're all operating from the one consciousness. It doesn't matter where in the world somebody is. If you want to talk to them, you can talk to them mentally through thought transmission. And I've actually I've been trying, since I've been thinking about thought transmission and it came into my awareness. I've been trying it, obviously, because I want to implement it and say, like, okay, well, let's test it out, right? If it's real, it's real. We're going to test it out. So I tried it with my friend. At first, I seen someone do it on YouTube where they were thinking of a certain fruit, and they told their friend, within the next so many hours, I want you to think of a fruit, and at the end of that hour span, the window of the hours, send me a text and let me know what fruit you were thinking about. Now, the person telling this other friend this, they already thinking of a fruit, and they're sending that thought transmission to them. But they want to see if it actually works, and so they they do this kind of experiment of sorts, and it worked. She was thinking of a dragon fruit. The girl texted her a dragon fruit, and now dragon fruit is it's not a simple, like, typical fruit that you would think of. So a dragon fruit, if they both thought of that, I think there's something to that. They did more things as well, but that's all I needed, because I already know about the whole consciousness thing. I know too much already, so it don't take much for me to be proved right, or for something to be proved right, So I tried the fruit thing. Now, I think where I messed up is I didn't give any kind of window. I just kind of texted my friend that lives in Florida. I was like, hey, think of a fruit. Let me know what's the first thing you think of. Now, I thought I had sent him the thought of a banana through my own mental awareness and consciousness, but he came back with orange. So that obviously didn't work out. So I was like, okay, well, that's a fail. But then I realized, I didn't do it exactly the way that they did it on YouTube. I didn't give myself a window. I didn't give time for that thought to ruminate in his mind. And because what happens is when you send thought per thought transmission, they get it instantly, but they also have free will, so they can think on it and act on it whenever they feel fit to. They have to process it like we all process emotions and thoughts and all. It's normal. So I think that's why you give them a window of a few hours so they can process it, and then it might work better that way. So that was this day. Didn't work. Next day, I didn't say anything about this. I told him though that I was thinking about a thought transmission thing. I was trying to do some experiment and it failed, whatever. And he laughed and he thought it was funny, right? Well, the next day, I'm just researching thought transmission and telepathy and all, because telepathy and thought transmission go hand in hand with consciousness too. It all goes hand in hand. Everything stems from consciousness. But so I don't text him at all. Now I'm thinking about him though, as I'm learning about thought transmission, and I'm thinking how you actually hold a person or a thing in your head, a person or anything that has consciousness, a plant, an animal, a human. So you hold them in your mind's eye, and I'm learning this. I'm learning the ropes, as they say, and I'm seeing him in my mind, and I'm just sending loving awareness his way. Nothing about telepathy though. Nothing about thought transmission. I'm doing this. I get home from work. I'm in my car. Before I get out of my car, even I'm thinking about him, putting forth mental image, towards him, and just wishing good energy to him. That's it. Just good energy. No thoughts. Just good energy. But holding the image of him in my mind while I do this with love. I go inside from my car. Maybe 10, 15 minutes go by. I get a text message. I'm doing something at the moment. I feel my phone go off. I thought it was just a notification for something that I didn't even necessarily even think it was him. A few minutes go by too, and I look at my phone, and it's from him. Okay, but that's nothing. The thing that made me realize that, okay, here we go. There's some truth to this, right? The message he sends me is about thought transmission, and it's about telepathy. Okay, mind you, I had not talked to him that whole day about it at all. This was the day before when I did the whole fruit experiment. And so that right there was confirmation enough for me. I was like, holy shit, dude. Not only is he sending me a message about, after that, I just thought about him not that long ago, like literally 10, 15 minutes prior. And I had been throughout the day. At sporadic times, I would think about him and hold him in my mind, hold him in my mental eye with love. And he's like, hey, I got this podcast I listen to. It's a tattoo podcast, because he's getting into all that. He's an artist, and he draws a lot of flash art, and he wants to become a tattoo artist. So that's his thing. And so naturally, he listens to a podcast about tattooing. And it's a brand new episode. It's the newest episode for this podcast, a tattoo podcast, mind you. And they're talking about consciousness, and they bring up. It's so crazy at me. It's funny, not crazy, because I know nothing's crazy, nothing's coincidence, right? Not to me. And so he sends me the podcast. He's like, hey, and basically how they're talking about thought transmission. And he's like, you ever heard of the telepathy tapes? And I had heard of the telepathy tapes prior to all of this, before me even getting into it and me testing it out for myself. But I never checked it out. I mean, I'm checking it out now since he sent it, though. But the whole thing is the correlation of what the text was, what it was about, and how how it got related from him to me, because he found it through a podcast. Naturally, a podcast that he listens to about tattooing. Sorry, my steering wheel is connected to. And he sends it to me because he knows I'm into consciousness, and I'm into, obviously I texted him the day before about thought transmission. I brought it up once. So I think it's so cool, the bridge of incidents that took place after that, after me holding him into my mind's eye with love and sending loving thoughts his way, as I'm doing right now as I make this video. So he might text me a little later about some shit that's correlating to this too, you know. I wouldn't doubt it, because I'm a firm believer of this now. And the more you dig into it, the more just wild it is, and the more grateful I am to be living on this planet right now. But living on this planet now with the want to know more about my own consciousness and everyone else's consciousness and just consciousness in general. And, you know, it's also taken me down law of assumption. You know, a law of attraction was something I tried a long time ago. I didn't really get what I wanted from it, but I got the 3D reflecting back to me things from that had to do with thought, with law of attraction, but it never got me to what I wanted. But the thought transmission telepathy has brought me to understanding more about law of assumption now, and that's come into my awareness, and the correlations between thought transmission and law of assumption, consciousness, excuse me. It all is very interesting to me how they work together. But law of assumption thing's neither here nor there, even though I'm having real fun with that too. And I might make a video more on that later once I dabble in that more. And once I get, you know, more acquainted with that. But I just thought the whole thought transmission thing and me putting it to the test and it actually working was so awesome. Like, and I didn't tell him this when he sent me the message about the thought transmission and all. I just told him, I was like, dude, I told him how funny I thought it was that he was the one that's sending me things like that. Because another thing that's funny is we would talk about how reality isn't what you think and more of a consciousness thing, and we would always kind of butt heads on it. I've mentioned him in passing in other videos about how we can never connect on certain things. But since then too, since I did the whole thought transmission thing with him and I'm, you know, etc., he's become more understanding, and so have I, as far as communicating to one another to why we can't connect on certain things. And what it actually stemmed from was something that I didn't even think it was even that. In my own reality and consciousness, in my own mental, in my own head, I had my own reasons for why we couldn't connect, and it was because he just wasn't accepting anything I was bringing to the table about consciousness, because it was just too far fetched. I thought it was just something he couldn't accept belief wise. When in reality, it was more just about a tone thing from me. Not nothing that I was doing bad, but just how I was delivering it naturally as who I am. But the fact that we could come together and have this realization with one another, and having that stem from thought transmission and me holding him in my mind's eye with love, there's no coincidence to this. I know there's no coincidence to this. And all that makes me want to do is just delve deeper into all of this even more, because I think that's a part of being a reality creator, and I've talked about that before in my life, in my YouTube channel on What Really Matters already, about being a conscious creator, a reality creator, because we are that God source, we are that I am energy, we are that I am, right? And so when you work from that and you realize you really are, there's only one being here being masked by billions of people, you know, who think they're people, and they have their own personalities, their own personal realities, right? It's just really interesting, and it's deep. It's a deep well of information to be exhumed, I guess you will, you know. But that's it for this video, guys. Kind of a more lighthearted one about thought transmission and telepathy. And I think actually, you know, I think we all have telepathic power. I want to say powers, but it's not powers, because it's very natural to who we are, you know. That gets kind of pushed to the side at a young age, because when we're younger and we tap into these gifts naturally because we're close to the source, we're at a younger age, right? Then the world kind of beats us around, and people tell us to not be so much like this and not say these things, and you know, you know the game, right? If you're watching this video, you know about consciousness, and you know why people get on a thing where they realize who they are because they've forgotten who they are. I've forgotten who I was through conditioning and all that kind of stuff that society puts onto you and family members put onto you from their beliefs. But I'm gradually getting over all those negative beliefs and having and creating my own belief system, because we really truly do create what we are, and our belief system is what we are. And if it's not serving us, we have the right, and it's literally our birthright to choose what belief system we want that aids us into our helping us thrive in this life. We don't have to struggle. The idea that you have to struggle in this life is a limiting idea, and you don't. And I'm learning this, and it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for all this wisdom to be bestowed onto me, and I'm just so excited to dig deeper into it, because it makes everything click for me. It just clicks, and you're like, it's like a remembrance. It is what it is, because we always knew these things, but we forget. Well, it's time to remember, and I'm remembering, and so are you if you're watching this video. And yeah, that's it. Telepathy, thought transmission. Give me a comment. Give me a comment in the comment section, please, if you feel called to do so, on what your thoughts are on both telepathy and thought transmission, and let me know your success stories with it, and let me know if you have any. Let me just let me know how it's worked for you, if you indeed have put it to the test as well, like I have. So I'm curious. But as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate you immensely, every single one of you, and have a great rest of your day. Catch you on the next one, guys. Peace out.